live in. And I think, yes, it's recording now and everyone's been left in. I wanted to welcome you all to our inaugural talk for Archaeologists Engage. Archaeologists Engage is an independent non-profit group of archaeologists who came together to enable engagement between professionals and the public. And so we've seen this disconnect between how archaeologists might share findings from their work and how the findings are perceived by wider audiences in some contexts. And so we're building those connections, moving beyond the concept of an ivory tower and the outside world, and rethinking and reshaping what public engagement means. And we're seeking ways to encourage archaeologists and heritage professionals to think about our professional responsibilities around public engagement and mitigate and manage any imbalances that may occur between our knowledge acquisition and how we communicate with the public, and what the public is, which types of publics, who are they. So those are big questions and big themes. So Archaeologists Engage is really delighted to welcome Annelise Baer, our inaugural speaker, for the start to kick off our speaker series, which will be having 4 times a year, so quarterly, season by season. So this is the spring season talk to start us in the new year. Annelise and I have worked together in the past, and it's been a beautiful experience. And she's a really good egg, and you're in really good hands for today. We've worked together in the States and in Albania, and we've also studied together in the UK, where Annelise did her MA in Archaeology for Screen Media at the University of Bristol. She also maintains a very popular, successful, and engaging TikTok account, Annelise the Archaeologist. If you don't follow her already on TikTok, please do so. So you get a really good example of what best practice, good practice, exciting and interesting practice online looks like. Annelise started back in 2020 in the pandemic. Like so many of us, were exploring different ideas during the pandemic. And I'm really excited to see all of your work around just having fun with archaeology and also tackling a lot of pseudoscience. And I think that you'll be covering a lot of those topics very soon. And also, Annelise, I don't know how much detail you're going to go into, but Annelise is very qualified in terms of how she produces and thinks about video content and about audiences and communicating history, having a background as an Emmy-nominated researcher and producer, double Emmy-nominated, I should say, and having that researcher and TV production background really informs a lot of the way she thinks about and advises on how to be a really great speaker online. So you're in very good hands. I'm going to mute myself, and I will be keeping an eye on the Q&A that we've opened up that you should have access to. And I think that you should have access as well, everyone, to the chat. So if you do have any questions or thoughts, I'll be keeping an eye on that in the chat space. And I see there's already a comment there that I'll be picking up in a moment. I'm just admitting people from the lobby. And with that, I'm on time and I'm handing over to Annelise, who will give us our talk. And at the end, I'll then be picking up all of the questions and Q&A and comments and having a little conversation at the end. So over to you, Annelise, and thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Arcs Engage and everyone for showing up, and for everybody. There's a lot of you. I went through I tabbed through to see how many people were here, and oh my goodness, there's a lot of you. So thank you all for being here. I know it's later in the evening for everybody in the UK, so thank you for staying up a little bit late to hang out with me. And as compensation for your time, you get to absorb a little bit of California sunshine for that. I thought, in the spirit of accessibility and social media, that this would be a little bit more of an informal talk today. And I would mostly center this talk around some of the questions that have been asked already, since we gave people an opportunity to submit questions ahead of time if they wanted to, and really just get into the kinds of things that so many of you ask or just have questions about when it comes to making engaging social media, specifically centered around history and archaeology, since that's what I do these days. Let's see where to start. The whole reason for all of this is simply to make archaeology and history and topics in those realms accessible to everybody. I'm all about sharing knowledge and just giving it away freely, because many of these things are just things that people should know. And as I've discovered in my own educational journey through the American education system, and then also getting a bit of experience with the British education, higher education system as well, I noticed that there were some big discrepancies in what was taught, how things were taught, and specifically in regard to history. So it should be no surprise that the American education system is lacking, especially when it comes to things like history, whether it's our own or history around the world. We miss a lot. And that is just because history itself is very big, it's very broad, it's very nuanced, and a lot of those nuances don't fit into a textbook that is designed for children or for high school students, and you kind of just have to cover the biggest, broadest strokes, maybe a little extra attention to something that is relevant to the particular state that you live in, and then just hope for the best. And so that means there's a lot of gaps when it comes to people's understanding of history in general, whether it's modern history, ancient history, or somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of gaps, and that leads to a lot of assumptions and misconceptions about things. And I know that we've all encountered that. And simply by existing on the internet as an expert, as your lovely self, you can help combat that and help make things just a little bit more known and a little bit less mysterious for the average person out there in the world. And that's basically why I started making videos on social media during the pandemic. It mostly started because I was bored and I needed something to do. And as a producer, it was hard to work on a television show during that first period of initial shutdown and lockdown, in which everyone was trying to figure out, how do we do this? How do we keep working? How do we keep operating? Production found a way to do it. We ended up making TV shows via Zoom, literally just like this, which was kind of funny. But from my own experience working on shows that had history elements or were focused almost entirely on history and archaeology, there were a lot of things that I saw and that I was involved with that I knew that if I had a chance to do my own show, I would do it differently. And so with a phone and a dream, that brings us to about today, because with social media, you can do whatever you want. You can make exactly the kind of thing that you want to see and put it out there for people to enjoy. It's literally that easy. And let's see, I think I will start with the basics. Best practices. If you are just getting started on a social media adventure, you've decided that you want to make videos and post them on Instagram or TikTok, talking about whatever it is that you're interested in. It's very easy to do. There are so many tools that are free and freely available, and it just takes a little bit of practice. Let me show you my setup. I have a phone. This is it. This is literally the phone that I film everything on. It's an iPhone 16 Pro, and this shoots in high definition 4K. So this is essentially broadcast quality footage that can come out of this phone. And that's all you need for things like Instagram and TikTok. Sound is a big thing. And that is my biggest professional note for anybody out there. Just recording or talking into your phone is fine in certain circumstances if the environment is quiet. If it's not, you're going to want a microphone. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can use the wired headphones, the old school Apple headphones, if you have an Apple product. I would actually recommend getting a separate standalone microphone. I have switched to using a Bluetooth mic setup. I got this on Amazon. It's like $80, if that. And this is Rode. Rode is an excellent microphone company, but you can try a couple, see what you like the best. A microphone will automatically up the professional sounding quality of your video by like 1,000. So good sound is key. Another thing is good lighting. I'm sitting in front of a window getting even natural lighting, and that is pretty much the best that you can do for free in your own home. If you don't have access to sunshine, essentially, or even natural lighting, you can use lights. I have a portable light. that will literally just magnet onto the back of my phone. So I can do this on the go if I need to. And I also have a very tiny little office studio set up right here. My office is my studio. You're seeing it. And that's what I use to get even consistent lighting in my videos. So I don't look like I'm in a weird shadow, in a weird cave, anything like that. But those main things will help you automatically stand out for just looking professional, even if you're at home, even if you're sitting in your living room or, in a library somewhere, maybe not a library, but it will help you immensely and it will help you stand out as someone who knows what they're doing, even if you don't. So it's a good way to hide or hide the low budget, but still high budget looking thing that you're creating. And let's see what else. I have notes for myself because there's so much to talk about. The other important thing is you. You should be visible. You should be the star of whatever's going on in the frame. So just frame yourself accordingly. You can move to the side a little bit if you need to. I do that a lot so I can have a green screen and have something to gesture to. If you're using TikTok, for example, or one of the editing programs like CapCut that you can have on your phone or on your computer, you can have a green screen filter so it does it for you. You just upload an image and then you can point and gesture to whatever you want. It's so easy and I love it. I use that like 99% of the time. But again, you're the star of the show. Keep yourself in focus in the frame and you'll be ready to go. Let's see what else. The other thing is speaking. Speaking on camera is not a natural skill, and not everybody is great at it, and that's okay. You can play around, you can figure it out, and if you realize that speaking to an invisible audience in front of a camera is just something that isn't working for you, that's okay. Partner with someone who can, and the two of you, or three of you, or four of you can create something really, really awesome. Play to your strengths. That's my main message. Play to whatever your strengths are, and don't feel like you have to force yourself to do something if it's just not a natural thing for you. That's totally okay. And that's why most productions that you see, either on social media, on the internet, or on television, are group projects. So everyone is doing exactly what they do best to make the best product at the end. So if you are a single person, it's just you and you want to make videos, practice. Just practice a little bit. You can practice by emulating some presenters that you really like, or just practice sitting up straight, shoulders back, and, big smile, showtime, and talk to the invisible audience in front of you to just practice getting the hang of it. I would recommend doing that for a short bit of time before committing to filming a video, editing it, and then posting it online, just so you can overcome some of those initial hurdles of any awkwardness or the figuring it out learning steps and all of this, because they are there. And the first videos that I put up online, it's rough. It's really, really rough. And most of those have since been privated because it's real rough. And I've learned a lot since then, even working as a professional in production. My job was always behind the camera. I was always the one setting things up, making things happen, organizing things. I was never in front of the camera. And on-camera skills are an entirely separate skill set. And not everybody has them. And again, that's okay. So I think there were a bunch of people who RSVP'd for this from organizations. And in those situations, I would say consult with the team, see who's on your team and see who kind of has the most natural on-camera charisma and the most natural skills for those sorts of things, and work with that. There's no need to force someone to be on camera if they just really don't want to be. That's okay. Again, play to your strengths. And then when you are talking, either to an invisible audience on your own in your home, or maybe for something that you're doing at work, talk as if you're talking to an interested parent or an interested best friend and explain your topic that way. That automatically brings a bit of excitement and, I don't know, casual energy to whatever it is you're trying to do. And I found that that's a really helpful thing for getting people into the right space for talking on camera. And it's very easy to do. Let's see. What else? Oh, breathing. Another thing. Remember to breathe. I often forget to do that. And it's important to remember to just take a breath. You're just talking. You're just talking about whatever it is you're doing. And if you're in the middle of recording, you can stop. You don't have to record it all in one go. You can do multiple different takes. You can stop. You can start. You can restart if you need to. There's lots of room to play and lots of room and tools to help you make the best thing that you can potentially make for then distributing to the wider internet. Let's see what else. I think there were some questions about the different platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, those are kind of the main platforms right now. And I would actually just kind of automatically discount Facebook right away because it was the first social media platform, and so now it's the oldest, and it's the one that is used the least for current forms of engagement. It's just kind of there. And I think someone had asked a question about, right, the benefits between a Facebook page and a Facebook group for a commercial unit historical society. At this point, I would actually advise taking the time and gathering the resources to make a website. Make yourself or your company a website, because that will ultimately do you much more good than just a single standalone Facebook page. Now, I know Facebook is free, so that can be done quickly and easily. And it's good to have just in case, because if you are working or creating a project that has a lot of emphasis and a lot of direct community engagement, depending on where that community is, they might be more Facebook oriented. So that would be a good way to connect directly with members of the community. But for reaching the wider world and the wider internet, build a website and spend the extra money to get a whatever your company is .com domain name. It will look and be so much more professional and have much more of a lasting impact than a Facebook page. And then as far as short form content, which is the type of stuff that goes on Instagram and TikTok, those are great places as well. TikTok obviously is the younger of the platforms, and so the audience there is generally younger, but it's global. It is fully global. And for interacting and dealing with TikTok, you just need to be ready for that. You need to be ready to move at the speed that TikTok moves. And so that involves having someone on the team who is, for lack of a better description, chronically online and can help you understand how all of that works and what certain things mean and when is a good opportunity for you or your project to potentially make a cute, fun little video to participate in a trend, because doing that will also broaden the reach. And that actually is a perfect segue into a really key aspect of all of this, which is that these days, the audience will value authenticity and connect more with a single individual than they will with a company. So one of the most perfect examples I can give for this right now is for anybody who's on TikTok, not Instagram or anything else, but if you are on TikTok and you are aware of Staples Baddie, that is one of the most incredible organic examples of natural marketing and using TikTok for all the positive benefits that can come from it. And it's a perfect example of people, just the audience, the global audience, or maybe mostly the American audience, connecting with a single individual, just one person, one employee who works at Staples, an office supply store, who decided to film while they were at work and tell us about the kinds of things that you could do at Staples, the kinds of things that you could get printed, and it exploded. It has gone completely viral organically because you cannot manufacture virality. That's the other thing. Do not go into any of this expecting viral content. You cannot plan it, you cannot manufacture it. And when you do, people will sniff that out immediately and sense the inauthenticity of that. And that will immediately turn people off. So just remove any thoughts and notions of virality, so that if it does happen, it will happen organically, and then just go with it, roll with it. But creating authentic content is the most important thing, and content is really just a catch-all term for just anything anything you put onto the internet, primarily in video form. And for the, I think, I forget exactly which organizations RSVP'd for this, but I know you're out there. For all of you, I would just say work with your team, see who's there, see who naturally gravitates towards this type of thing. You know, someone who might already be on TikTok or Instagram, just doing their own thing as themselves, and work with that. Because again, like having one or two individuals in the organization who can kind of be your little stars will do you a lot more good than simply trying to present the organization as a whole, because that's not necessarily engaging. People want to know what's going on, where can they find you, where can they, you know, if there's something interesting to come see at a library or a museum, for example, then what is there? What's going on? And if they have someone who can speak to them essentially and show them the cool things that you can do there, then that will catch attention and eyeballs, and people will get interested. Some really great examples of this that I've seen online lately are the Royal Armories Museum. So shout out to the Royal Armories. They have done a wonderful job at figuring out the formula for presenting something as, you know, institutionalized as the Royal Armories to the global audience and making it interesting for young people and just people in general. They've done a great job. So shout out to them and their social media team. Oxford Archaeology, I think you all are here. Maybe someone's here. If you are, doing a great job. I saw a video from Oxford Archaeology jumping on a trend just from the last week. And that's exactly the kind of thing you need to do. Don't try to catch every trend or song. Don't do dances. Nobody's doing dances. But if you see an opportunity to have something that is currently trending, as it is called, and you can make it relate either to what you do or what you talk about, jump on it, do it, and it'll be silly, it'll be fun, but it'll get you out there, and that's the important thing. Let's see. Another question was about consistency. Social media and the social media landscape is constantly changing. It is always changing, and what was considered good practice or hot tips for having an active social media profile or account or platform no longer applies in 2026. So it used to be the case where to be considered active or sort of a valuable presence on social media, you had to post every day, you had to, you know, comment X amount of times for engagement and do all of these things. That doesn't apply anymore. So the good news is you don't have to post every day. You really don't. My own posting schedule can be Monday through Friday, depending on my time, my availability, if I have something I want to talk about. If I don't, if I post, say, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then maybe Thursday, I'm just really busy, or Thursday, I can't think of anything to talk about, take Thursday off. The world won't end. Back to it on Friday. or do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But the ultimate goal is quality over quantity. So do not feel like you need to post every single day. Do not feel like you need to post multiple videos every single day. That is not something that actually works. That is not a hot tip for growing an account or going viral or anything like that. Account growth and virality is organic, and it will happen when your audience begins to find you. And that is something that will happen when people find you. You can use hashtags, those still are kind of relevant for the most part. The search engines are a little weird these days, but if you make a video and do hashtag archaeology, hashtag England or something like that, and maybe 2 or 3 other relevant hashtags, that's really all you need. You don't need the full block of every single word as a hashtag. Just pick 3 to 5, maybe 6 if you're feeling really fancy. And that's all you really need. And again, the audience will find you, they will connect with you if you are being your authentic, interesting, engaging self. And that's what people will connect with, in addition to whatever information you're talking about. So if it's about a niche topic or an evergreen topic, people will always be interested in something about Cleopatra, something about the pyramids, for example, maybe something about Stonehenge. Evergreen topics are always good, but niche topics or slightly more advanced topics within those areas, explaining things, people will show up, the audience will find you, and then it will grow from there. Because again, you cannot manufacture immediate overnight growth. You cannot manufacture viral content. It happens. It happens when it happens, or it doesn't, but you keep at it. So I think that's the long and roundabout way of addressing that specific question. What else was there? Let's see. Interacting with the public. Yes. That is an unfortunate side effect and a necessary thing that comes with existing and being present on social media. It is an unfiltered open door to the internet, which means anybody and everybody can come into your internet space and interact with you. The good news is on platforms like TikTok and Instagram and most other social media platforms, you can block people. That is okay. In fact, I highly encourage that because these days, one of the main things that is needed for archaeologists actively existing on the internet is the ability to spot when people are coming into a space simply to argue, simply to ask bad faith questions, simply to be a troll or to be abusive. To which I say, go ahead and block people. It is not your job to waste your time trying to explain something to someone who has purposefully come into your space to misunderstand you, because those people are out there. They will find you, especially when you're talking about historical or archaeological topics, because of all of the pseudoscience that exists out in the world. Those people will come and find you too. Don't be afraid to block them. It's totally okay. My philosophy is this is my corner of the internet. This is my house. You have come into my house. And if you're trying to start fights or be rude, you can leave. You just close the door. That's totally okay. Do not feel like you need to expend time, effort, and energy getting into fights with people on the internet, because you shouldn't have to do that. And again, it's worth reading up a little bit on sort of the current environment of pseudoscience and pseudoarchaeology, just to get a sense of the kind of things that are out there if you're not already familiar with that, or talk to someone who is, and they can fill you in and help you get a sense for the kinds of things that people will lead with if they're not just coming in asking bad faith questions right off the bat, to spot pseudoscience, pseudoarchaeology trolls any of that. You can shut that down right away. You don't need to engage with that unless you want to. And that gets a big asterisk, because with the internet the way it is these days in 2026, CEAD, whatever dating system you want to use, the internet has changed. The internet is a very different place than it was even 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. And because of that, you need to know how to protect yourself and what to expect when you engage with other people on the internet, because anything could happen. And these days, one should not get into fights on the internet or call out people directly or anything like that unless you are ready to face the consequences. Um, Positive, neutral, negative, all of it, because things can go from manageable to unmanageable very, very, very quickly. And you need to be able to deal with that, or just be prepared for that possible outcome of your action or interaction on the internet. And that is one of the reasons why I personally don't, well, we're not using Twitter anymore. And the people who are still using Twitter are the kind of people that like to get into fights online. And that's the platform that they like to do it on. The comment section of any any platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I mean, there's a reason why general internet wisdom is don't read the comments. But on the current platforms, you do have to read the comments so you can engage with the comments to help boost the thing that you have posted. So some engagement is necessary. And with my specific platforms, mostly on Instagram and TikTok, it's just me. It's just me running the show. So I see everything that comes in. I see all the notifications. I don't have push notifications turned on. In fact, I would highly recommend turning those off if you plan to more actively post on Instagram or TikTok, because it'll kill your phone. But in your account, you can see all the activity. You can see who's liked your post, who's shared it. You see all the comments. And so for everything that I post, I do keep an eye on what people are saying, so that if anyone is being rude or trolling or racist or anything, then I can take the necessary steps to either remove that comment, block that person, whatever needs to be done, just to keep my little corner of the internet a nice place. Because I want people to feel like they can come to me if they want to ask a question or learn something interesting about archaeology, and feel like it's a nice little place, just a corner on the internet. And then if you want to go back out into the wider world where everything else is happening all at once, you can do that. But at least in my little corner, we're having a nice time. We might be talking about something a little bit more in depth, a little bit more nuanced when it comes to history or archaeological topics. But, it's only 90 seconds. We're not getting too deep. It's fine. And then you can go on with your day. But I do actively have to maintain that atmosphere. And I will not hesitate to block anybody who comes into my space and starts leaving, hateful comments or anything like that. That's fine. You are under no obligation to interact with those people. In fact, you should probably block them, because all they want to do is fight. And that takes away from your time and your message and whatever it is you're doing. And that's a tangent. Let's see. That I think that was actually a question that someone had asked. And then that leads right into the second question, which is, how do we balance all of this with work and family and lives to avoid burnout? And that's something that I don't have an answer for, because the burnout is real. It's a lot to keep up with, especially if you have other obligations. So I have a day job. I have the social media schedule that I've set for myself. I have other just life things that are going on, other obligations. And balancing it all is hard. It's very, very hard. And so you just need to figure out what works best for you and your time and your schedule. And again, if posting once a week is all you can do at the beginning, that's fine. Stick to that. Don't try to overextend yourself because of, I don't know, just because of reasons. Work with your schedule and start slow. Take little baby steps at first. And then as you get into the rhythm of things, as it becomes easier to create, edit, and post videos, then you can up it. You can move to 2 videos a week, 3 videos a week, whatever works with your schedule. And again, it's you. It's you and it's your schedule, so you can do whatever you want. Unless you're being paid to do a specific amount of things per week, then that's for your job. And then you work with that schedule. But otherwise, if it's just you as a person, you get to set the schedule. You get to do what you want. You get to create this thing for yourself. And it can be as much or as little as you want to get started with. Let's see what else. Do, 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 do. Let's see. Oh, someone had asked a very good question about effective ethical social media engagement tools. And I think the answer really is that, well, none of these platforms are ethical. None of them, because we know who's running these companies. Meta specifically is a great example. Like, that's not ethical at all. Of course not. And that's just, I don't know, that's the reality of all of this, which is that we have to go into business and engage with these highly unethical companies if we want to utilize these social media tools and platforms as part of our outreach and engagement. So for that, it's really just about your personal comfort level. And if you absolutely do not feel comfortable using any of those platforms, then make a website. Make your own website and use that as your central point for adding your information. You can post videos there. You can still make and create videos and just post them there via YouTube or something like that. And even though some people might complain, they might gripe about how, like, oh, why can't this be on Instagram? Or, like, oh, are you guys on TikTok? No, we're not. It's fine. Work with what you can do, with what you feel comfortable doing, and there will be a good solution kind of no matter what you do there. But these days, people do get the majority of their engagement with individuals and with companies or organizations on social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So it all depends on your ultimate goal. Let's see. YouTube is something that I don't do, so I can't speak to it super well, but YouTube is where people go for long form content. So if you plan on making and creating videos that are longer than 3 minutes, YouTube is the place to be. And that's what people expect to find there. They expect to find longer videos, many minutes long, sometimes an hour long, depending on what you're doing, maybe 2 hours. That's where long form content exists. And so, again, it all depends on your ultimate goal, either for yourself or for your organization. And if you just want to do little short things, then I would say stick to something like Instagram. That would be the easiest and the friendliest platform, even though it's owned by Meta, to have just seasonal, especially if it's like a seasonal project. That would be potentially the best place for something like that. YouTube is for long form content, everything else is for short form. And Facebook just kind of also exists. It's like I don't actively engage with Facebook too much anymore, but I understand its importance in specific communities and elsewhere in the world, because depending on what country you're in, people might still be actively using Facebook all the time. So it really depends on that as well. Let's see. What else? Ash, am I forgetting anything? Just rambling extensively about best practices.
No, I mean, if you want to transition into kind of more the conversational side of it, we have received a couple of
Mm,
questions from people already.
yes.
So in the Q&A, there, you have touched a bit about capacity and work time, but I thought that you
Yes.
might want to add something on to what Andy's asked, which is how do you advise finding the capacity and time when there's no team and you're the only person in a small organization willing and interested to be online? And I think there's something there about you might have other people, but you might be the only
Mhm.
person who sees the value in what you're doing. And maybe some of this is about how we articulate the value of what we're doing.
Yeah. That's a good one. Because yeah, my existence on social media is it's me. I I come up with everything. I think of everything. I film everything. I edit everything. I post everything. I manage everything once it's been posted. I do that. And in that regard, and even on our digs, like when we were last in Albania, it's like I was the one doing the social media stuff and having to fit it in during the day, in between work, while we were all working, pull someone aside for 5 minutes and just say, like, tell me something at the camera about what we're doing. And it really is just a matter of carving out that time. I have no unfortunately I have no easy answers for it because I struggle with it daily. Carving out a dedicated hour of my day to come up with something to talk about, do a little quick research, get some photos if I need to, have a couple cycles of thinking about, like, okay, what do I want to say? What do I want to say? What do I want to focus on? And then sitting down to film, edit, and post everything. For me, it takes about an hour, give or take. It depends on the topic, depends on how much extra research is needed, or if it's something I just have ready to go in my brain. And for some people, it may take longer if you have to do deep research and write a script for yourself, because how people film, like the literal practical aspect of filming, is different from person to person. So I find that filming my own videos is something that I can do thanks to the power and wonder of ADHD. I can harness my ADHD for good, and if I get a little nugget of a topic that I'm interested in, I can think of what I want to say, maybe do a couple of takes just to get the sentence right, or like, oh, try it one way, try it a different way. And I don't necessarily need to script what I'm going to say. I just think about it and I say it. That doesn't work for everybody. I know people who literally cannot function for their filming without having a script in front of them. They need to know exactly what to say and when to say it. And so figuring out where you fall in that sort of practical method of filming will then dictate how much time you need to set aside for creating. So, how much time do you need to set aside for sitting down, researching, and writing something that you're going to talk about? Or can you do it on the fly? Can you be spontaneous and do it on the fly with a little bit of prep and get it done quickly? It all depends on who you are, how you operate, and what exactly it is you need to accomplish at the end of it. That will determine how much time you need. And then again, at the end of the day, like, you just have to carve out that time, put on the do not disturb, make that part of your workday schedule. That's the best advice I can offer in that regard, because again, I struggle with that daily, and every day is different, every week is different. But if you have a set work schedule, maybe it's a little easier to carve out an hour or two for, research or production or editing, whatever you need to do. And then as far as getting others to see the value in what you're doing, that's when the numbers come in handy. So that's when you can say, like, oh, this post got X amount of views or X amount of comments, to demonstrate the physical aspects of engagement. But views are also a good indicator of reach. And if you post on something like Instagram or TikTok, you have access to the analytics for that specific video, and it can tell you where people are watching from. And that can be very useful for demonstrating uh, value in a numerical sense like that. Even if a video doesn't go viral necessarily, you can say like, hey, 2,000 people saw this video, and it wasn't just here in the United States. Like there were people in other countries watching this. That's really interesting. And just work with that, celebrate that. And depending on what you do, maybe you will see those numbers go up. Hopefully you will. And
And I think for
yes,
some of the
yeah,
organizations, yeah, it will help
yeah.
them with
Mm-hmm.
understanding the value as well, and
Yeah.
maybe giving you a little bit more capacity. And there can be
Mm-hmm.
a lot of detail in there around what genders and what age groups, so you can get some
Exactly. Yeah,
demographics going.
you'll have all that handy in number form from the analytics. And so that's the kind of stuff that larger organizations and companies would usually really like. And you can just show that to them. And
Um,
in addition to having a post be very successful.
So we've got some additional questions coming in now. I think
Hmm.
as people are sitting with some of the information you provided,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
please,
having big
questions.
thinks, so we might get a
Give me
few more.
questions.
But I think Zada and what is it? And Andy had some questions about the types of I think the types of people that you meet on different
Hmm.
platforms, and in some cases you might get some terrible looters, but you might also get some really great professionals, and there's different types of people and different types of audiences. So,
Hmm.
what audiences do you engage with, and how on the different platforms, and where is it? Where's it sitting for you about what's good for networking and
Hmm.
communicating and with people who are maybe also professional archaeologists and in industry versus members of the general public?
I'd say of the platforms that I use and engage with regularly, TikTok is the most wide reaching and the most fun. The comments on videos that I post on TikTok, for the most part, everyone's having a good time. Everyone's being funny. They're making jokes. They're leaving nice, little emojis or things as simple as like, wow, thanks for posting this. This was really interesting. Or like, this was so cool. Thank you. And for the most part, everyone's very well behaved. This can change depending on the topic of the video and or if the video suddenly breaches containment, as we say, and goes viral. Because once it leaves essentially my realm of things that I can control, then it's just like I can only check in on the comments every so often just to make sure that nothing overtly awful or hateful or racist or whatever is being posted in the comments, and delete those comments, block those people. But for the most part, if a video goes viral, and I've had that happen a couple of times, one, it's terrifying, do not recommend. um it is a terrifying experience. um the the best way I can describe it is when a video goes properly, truly, like overnight viral, the feeling is the Eye of Sauron. It has turned and it's looking directly at you. And the Eye of Sauron and all of the internet is also looking directly at you. It's terrifying. It's a lot. And that's another reason why I suggest turning off push notifications, because if perchance you have a video that goes viral, the amount of notifications will kill your phone. So that's just a pro tip. But yeah, for the most part, people on TikTok are younger, but it's a broad audience. They're younger, they're more familiar with internet trends, slang, lingo, memes, useful memes, and people tend to have a good time. Instagram, a little bit less so, just because of the overlap between Instagram and Facebook. So I interact in the comments with Instagram the least, because the comments that I tend to get on my Instagram posts are very much like Facebook comments, and they suck. And the people who leave them are not great. But Instagram is also where you find official profiles and presences of established organizations. So it's a good place to find, interact with, and communicate with institutions, organizations, and businesses and things like that. So it's good in that regard. But as far as interacting with actual people, it's not my favorite. And again, Facebook, I do not use. I mean, I have an ancient abandoned Facebook profile that I use to keep track of people's birthdays, but I do not actively post on Facebook because of the way it has degraded over the years and because of the types of interactions that occur there. So I don't use it. But I think we are all familiar with the types of people and the types of comments that get left on Facebook posts. And, you know, it is that. It is what it is. And then same thing with YouTube. I personally don't use it for posting videos, posting content. So I can't speak to it in depth or in detail, but for the people who do, I know that dealing with the comments, YouTube comments, is a constant issue, especially for the women who are out there and existing in a public way on the internet. So that is also a separate element of all of this, is just simply being a woman on the internet gets you a certain type of interaction that your male counterparts will likely not have to deal with. But I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that too often. It only really happens when I post a video on a topic that is considered to be more male skewing with an audience as opposed to female skewing. So an example of this, a female skewing topic would be Cleopatra. The ladies love Cleopatra. She's our homegirl. She's my homegirl. She's super cool. You will almost always get a majority female audience and interaction when you post something about Cleopatra, for example. When I talk about Göbekli Tepe, that is when it skews male, and that is when the demographic of my audience shifts, and it becomes a much more unpleasant thing because we start getting what are known as reply guys and a lot of armchair engineers and the type of people that are a lot more interested in the pseudoscience and pseudoarchaeology elements of everything, including Göbekli Tepe. They come out of the woodwork. They come out of the woodwork and they see me, a woman, speaking on the internet knowledgeably about a subject, and it's all over. So that's just another element of something that you need to be aware of and need to be prepared to deal with when it comes to posting things on social media.
And I think that would also apply not just for women, but for people from the global majority and anyone who's
Yes.
minoritized as well. Definitely, there is
Yes.
a different treatment. And that makes me think about the responsibilities of organizations when they're asking or expecting people to be on
Mm-hmm.
social media. They do need to be cognizant of this. So if you're
Yes.
talking about this with your organization, to feed that back and have that as part of the package. But we have more
Mm-hmm.
questions. Give you a moment to have a breath while I ask you.
Yeah. Take a
Um,
couple seconds.
so Amy says that you often have videos about archaeology news, but she asks, how do you decide what other topics to cover and how far ahead do you plan topics? Where do you get your inspiration from?
An excellent question. Um, I go with what I want to talk about. It's my corner of the internet. It's my channel. If it was YouTube, it would be a channel. It's my profile. It's my corner of the internet. I do what I want. And I pick the things that I find interesting that I also think would resonate with a wide non-specialist audience. So I'm sure for all of us who are on Blue Sky, we see our good buddy Rogue Classicist posting, 20 links of interesting things a day. And while all of those things are super interesting archaeologically, maybe one of those links is something that I could potentially grab and say, like, this could actually be a pretty good video today. People might be interested in this. And by people, I mean, again, a wide broad, non-specialist audience who have a casual or medium interest in ancient history and archaeology. And so those are really the only two guidelines I use for those sorts of things. And then other days I just say, you know what? I want to talk about this because I want to, and I can. And I'm going to make a video about it. I'm going to post it. And if you all want to watch it, great. If you don't, that's okay. That's your right. It's your experience on the internet. You can scroll on by and I will not be offended. But at the end of the day, do what you want. Do what you want. Talk about the things that you want, the things that interest you, and the things that get you excited. And that excitement, because you can see it's like you sit up a little bit and you start talking and your face brightens, and that genuine natural excitement is something that people will connect with because it's authentic. And even if you have a small audience, you will have a small dedicated audience because they're there for you and they like you and the thing you're talking about.
I know what videos of yours that are my favorites, and they're definitely about the little guys,
The little guys, yeah.
the little guys, little tiny animals. But what are your kind of favorite niche topics that brought you the most joy when you did them?
Little guys, definitely, because who doesn't love a little guy? Who doesn't love either finding one, if you are lucky enough to find a little guy in the wild, or if you go to a museum and you see a bunch of little guys in a case, little pottery with feet. Anytime I see pottery with feet, I'm there. Things like that. I love coins. I love talking about coins, but coins are kind of hard to talk about on social media because you need to get like a good big photo and you got to do the green screen, but I love coins. Um, I mean, it changes day by day, hour by hour. There are so many cool things and interesting things to talk about in the world of archaeology, and I'm just glad that sometimes people connect with that. So like I think one video that I made last year that I thought was just a fun thing to talk about was ancient makeup, and it went viral. I literally had not expected anybody to pay attention to it. It was kind of just a throwaway video, posted on whatever day of the week it was. And I was like, oh, this seems interesting enough. I'll talk about this. Millions of views later, here we are. So you never know what people will connect with and resonate with, but I can say that from my own experience, it's the things that provide examples of genuine humanity and genuine human connection, where people can see that the people of the past, the people of a great ancient culture or whatever, were just people. They were just people, just like us. And being able to see that and to recognize that in yourself and in something that was left behind by someone who was alive 2,000 years ago, it's like those are the things that tend to grab people the most. So go for that as well. Human connection.
So there's another couple of questions, and I think some of this has answered some of those preemptively, but
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to run them past you to make sure that if there was any nuance that you wanted to pick up, that we could address it. So Zada asks, I'm curious what strategies, topics, or series leveled up your engagement and got folks following, commenting, liking, and sharing. What did you do, start doing consistently that made the biggest difference?
I think it was just posting videos consistently, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, posting every single day during the week. Um, I didn't really do anything necessarily. I didn't set out with a social media strategy to be like, I need to post X amount of videos and engage with, X amount of comments when people reply. I didn't do any of that. I simply started making videos about the things that I thought were interesting and posting them on platforms on the internet because I didn't see anybody else doing it. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. I'll do it myself. And that was the strategy, really, was I'll just do it myself. And that's the best advice I can offer, which is just be yourself, set a schedule that works for you. Do not feel like you need to follow anybody else's schedule, because for some people, they do social media content creation full time. That is their job, that is their schedule. But for those of us who are juggling filming, conceptualizing, editing short videos, even a short, 90-second, 2-minute video in a full workday, like that's a lot. That is a lot to cram in there, and you need to figure out the schedule and the balance that works for you based on whatever your goal is, either for yourself or the organization that you're working with.
Thank you. I think you've answered the next question from Lynn Marie. I might go
Yeah.
on to some of the next ones as well about um, how do you kind of maybe thinking about how you're doing your presentation or how you're speaking, are there any things that you're consciously doing that encourage engagement, that encourage more comments, that encourage people to click through to something? Is there, I think it's probably going to relate to that authenticity, but are there
Mm-hmm.
any things that people could think of that will help direct people to interact, become more active rather than passively just observing?
No. In a word, no, because for the majority of what I post, I'm not necessarily looking for interaction. If people feel so moved by the spirit of the internet to comment, that's wonderful. That's great. I'm not necessarily looking for that. And I think that might be because I'm specifically a person who does not actually comment. I don't comment on things. I don't feel the need to, leave a comment or, I'll like something, but I'm not a commenter, so that's not something that I go in expecting others to do. I know that on Instagram and Facebook, there are lots of bigger, or there's more examples of the social media, either posts or videos, that have a call to action, which is what that is. Which is something that tells the audience what to do. So either, like, comment, and share for more, or comment trip and I'll send you the itinerary or something like that. Those are calls to action. And unless you are specifically trying to sell people something, there really isn't a need to do that. And these days, people find those types of calls to action cringy and inauthentic, unless you are trying to sell something. And even then, it can be a bit cringy, because if you are just trying to direct someone maybe to your organization's website, just tell them. You can just tell them, like, hey, we've got tickets available for our next lecture. It's linked in our profile. The link is in our bio. You can find it there. And I like to think that most people are competent adults and can follow a simple instruction like that. And for the people who can, great, yay. For the people who can't, you can, if they ask in the comments, like, oh, you can find the link here, and you can paste it there for them. But I actively don't include calls to action in my posts, even ones where I'm advertising a trip that I might be doing. I'll just say, the link is in my bio. And I I will then leave it up to the viewer to decide if they want to take that step and find more information. I'm not going to spend more of my time doing that. But again, that's just me. I know that is probably not a best practice, especially if you are trying to drive engagement to a certain place, a certain link, a certain thing. But even if you are, just say that. Just say, hey, we've got our, yeah, same thing, tickets for something are linked in our profile, because sometimes including a link and a comment doesn't work all the time. Just say that. Or if it's a photo post, you can put that on the screen and say, tickets are linked in our profile. And that's kind of all you need to do. I would not recommend forcing it, because again, that will come off as inauthentic, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We want authenticity.
Thank you. And do you think as well on that about people in different generations and different demographics have different
Yeah.
behaviors. So
Yes.
my anecdotal observation is that people who are on the younger side aren't really commenting, but they might be sharing.
Hmm.
Whereas people
Yes.
our age group and older are
Yes.
definitely comfortable commenting freely on the internet.
Yes, yes, that's absolutely a thing. And yeah, depending on the platform that you're using, the audience demographic and especially the age range of the audience will dictate the behavior. Typically, there are always atypical or outliers and things like that, but for the most part, yes, that is the case. Younger folks may not always comment, but they will likely share. And that's the other thing. I've noticed a lot more young people will send me DMs on Instagram and TikTok as a way of like literally communicating with me and asking a question, as opposed to sending me an email or leaving a comment. Like they would rather do that privately through DMs. And I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, it's something that I saw in the kind of the big dogs on top of Instagram and stuff talking about
Hmm.
how they're putting more money in their systems on TikTok and Instagram, all these and Snapchat into direct messaging into DMs
Hmm.
rather than on posting in feeds because that's where
Hmm.
the activity is. That's where people are really interacting, which is for our intents and purposes pretty invisible most of the time,
It
really difficult
is.
to demonstrate to an
Hmm.
organization improve your reach. So
Yeah,
some of these things can pick up and people be interested, but they might do so in a really quiet, muted way.
exactly.
But I was kind of interested in the kind of the comments that you're getting someone on the internet. Are you noticing any changes in bot comments? Is that something that's affecting
Mm.
you, where there's automatic kind of bot comments coming on for certain topics rather than others, or any behaviors in the last 5 years or so?
Thankfully, no, not for me. And I know that I am incredibly privileged in that sense to not have to be dealing with that regularly. I do notice bot comments every now and then and it's literally just like it's a spam comment. I mean, it's a spam comment left by a user with a weird generic profile and a bunch of letters for a username, and it's like, and sometimes it's really just nonsense. But those are very easy to spot. And so you can just delete that, block that profile. I know others have dealt with it much more simply because of bad luck, not necessarily because of comments. But I'd say there are more bots and bot profiles existing on the internet these days, but thankfully I don't have to deal with them much, if at all. And that might just be my good luck. But it is something to just keep an eye out for. And one of the reasons why it's always good to just take a casual scroll through the notifications of your post every day just to make sure everything looks good, make sure everyone's behaving themselves, and if any weird or suspect things pop up, you can just deal with them right away and get on with your day.
Thank you. I think it's in the forefront of my mind because I'm doing some research at the moment where I was looking at some of the stats and I just had to do a double take going, this can't be right. But it
Yeah.
is right. And it's verified about in Ireland and Germany, over 70% of comments on social media are bots. In the
Yep.
UK, it's over 65% now. In
Mhm.
different countries are being targeted by bots in different ways. And it was just jaw-dropping to me. I hadn't realized it gotten that big. And that was, I think, a 30% increase on the year before, and we're seeing these very large increases. So
Yeah.
something that I just wanted to flag as well in this discussion. But for the kind of final question before I give you a little teaser about our next talk, I wanted to kind of ask you about some of the pseudoscience people. So I was particularly interested in how your approach to an education communication has changed hearts and minds for people who might be dabbling in pseudoscience thinking. What are they saying? How are they feeling? Because I think what was really interesting about what you've done on the internet is you've carved out a space where people go and they trust you and they
Mhm.
consistently trust you and they go to you to kind of sense check about things that they have learned from people who are more than dubious.
Yeah, I am surprised that that has happened, but I am delighted that it has happened. And there have been a number of occasions where I've been made aware of something sort of as it hit the internet. There are a couple of repeat offenders on TikTok that really just post nothing but pseudoscience nonsense. And they have a much bigger account than I do. They have a much bigger reach than I do. So I will usually see when they post something pretty promptly. And depending on what it is, and that's when the sort of pseudoscience best practices and gut instinct checklist kind of comes in handy, because it's like, okay, is this something that I want to talk about, either to bring more attention to? Because honestly, the best thing to do for pseudoscience, especially if it's kind of just run of the mill pseudoscience, is just don't give it more oxygen, because they want your attention. They want people to talk about it. They want engagement. They want to pick fights on the internet. Don't give them the satisfaction of doing that. But for other things, especially if I see it getting a lot of traction really, really quickly, then I will essentially do something that's called pre-bunking. And I find that to be better and more effective than debunking, because debunking is a reactive tactic. Pre-bunking is proactive, and you're getting ahead of it. And sometimes that's all you need to do is just say, like, hey, here's a video. You may have seen this thing. I don't call out people directly on the internet because, again, I'm not trying to pick fights. Like, at my big age, I have been on the internet entirely too long. I am too old to be getting in fights with people on the internet. And also, I don't want to do that. I got things to do. So I will make a video saying, hey, you may have seen this in the news today. You may have seen some videos about this. Here's what the real deal is. Is this true? Yes or no? What the details are, etc. And just leave that there so that people can find it. And there have been multiple occasions now where the first bunch of comments have been people being like, oh my God, thank you. I was waiting for your video on this. Or people start tagging me in the comments saying, like, did you see this? Did you see this? And the fact that people now see these crazy things go by on the internet, and they know that they can look to me as a trusted source of information, is pretty cool. Again, very surprising, but pretty cool. And I'm here for it. And I do the best that I can with the platform that I have to just get real information out there. And it's there. It is there. It is on record. I've gotten it out there. And, I did my best. And that's really all you can do at the end of the day.
And making a very big positive difference for the world. And,
Yes.
we kind of sometimes think, oh, if we could only change even one mind, that would be
Exactly. And
hugely
then you do.
impactful.
And
And
then
then you
you
do.
do. Yes. And then
So
also
I
hearing from kids who are like, I
yeah,
want to be an archaeologist and I love your videos. I'm like, oh, babies.
the indoctrination starts early.
Yes. Start them
Um,
young.
so I wanted to thank you, Annelise, for an amazing, amazing talk. I think you've really covered the full gambit of practical tips that individuals can take away for themselves, thinking about our own careers and how we present ourselves online to the public, what value we bring to the public, and how we can encourage organizations to think and plan for how they work on social media and avoid some catastrophes along the way. And know
Yes,
that yes, the block button is your friend as an
it
individual on
is.
the internet. You don't have to take any abuse. But I wanted to just share a little snippet from our next talk and share the links for you to sign up, which is going to be from amazing Jane Miller in Archaeology Scotland. And that's going to be talking about inclusive community engagement and thinking about building skills and confidence and connections in a very, very different way, a lot of the time offline as well. So I think a lot of principles and good ideas and good practice that we're seeing here, just from a different lens and thinking about how we can reach and connect with more more communities. And this talk is being recorded, so I will find a way to make that available in an appropriate way, and it'll be put up online, and we'll link it from the Archaeologists Engage website. And hopefully there'll be a blog from Annelise reflecting on your questions, some of the questions we got beforehand and from this experience. So thank you all for attending and for engaging with us today. And really, really glad to see so many of you here today. So thank you again.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. I'm reading all the comments now.
So I've stopped recording now.